Welcome to Talking Live during our special COVID-19, where we bring you the best and the brightest. And today we have Mindie Barnett, and she is going to tell us all about how to keep up our PR game. We really need to continue to promote ourselves in all different kinds of ways. And she is an expert because she is the president and CEO of M&B Public Relations. Did I get that right? MB Public
Okay,
Relations.
nobody does. It's MD and Associates Public Relations. It's a mouthful. And there's a whole reason behind it because I didn't really know I was going to go into business when I took that name. But anyway.
I should know that because you are a friend of the show. You are a friend of mine, and you are one of the top prized publicists in New Jersey, Philadelphia, and in New York. And you just have some really great tips for us. What are you noticing in the PR world right now? Because we are in unprecedented times.
Yeah, we really are. So in my world, we represent a variety of different business leaders in all different industries, and some of them are shut down, right? Like I work with restaurants and elective doctors and things of that nature, and their business is literally halted, dentists, the whole nine. And then there's other businesses that I work with that are kind of full speed ahead, depending on their business model and who they service. So those types of businesses and doctors that are still practicing, wellness physicians and the like, they're I don't want to say easier to pitch, but obviously they have more day-to-day information that they can share that's relevant to the masses. But to the clients that are technically not like inoperable right now, it's just as important for them to stay relevant and to keep their name afloat without looking like they're trying to be too self-serving. Because at the end of the day, that's really not what PR is about. We're media strategists on this side of the fence. We look to offer true and tried content and news you can use and free information. Obviously, the bottom line for clients is to brand them and position them as the thought leaders that they are. But the end of the day, you want to be offering like real content. So what can you bring to the table that's going to be relevant, that you're going to help others out there, people that are in your audience that you service, and also just people in general propel and apply some of your knowledge and your area of expertise, into their day-to-day. So if you're a restaurant, that might mean how do you make homemade gravy? And by that, I don't mean the turkey kind, Dr. Robbie, like you and I probably would think of, because we're nice Jewish girls, but homemade sauce. Uh-huh. I know gravy is like marinara sauce.
I have a question just to highlight her, because I've been thinking about this. Meghan Markle, I think, is an example, and you can tell me, of somebody who is doing PR completely wrong. And it surprises me because I know she must be working with a top publicist in LA, but she's somebody who seems to be self-promoting during a time when the world is in a global crisis.
I know. And I don't know if it's probably to the detriment or to the dismay, I guess I should say, of her publicist. I would hope most publicists would kind of steer your client away from that. But Meghan Markle might just, think she's, at the end of the day, the client makes the final decision, about what they choose to do and say. I mean, it's their message, right? They own their own identity. So it's a free world. They can do whatever they want, and then as a publicist, it's up to you whether you're going to stand by your client and watch them, basically like kind of destroy their image or walk away because they're not taking your advice and your expertise to heart. So I agree with you. I think she is being a little bit too kind of in your face and self-serving and in some shape. I don't know what her publicist is suggesting she do or not do, but if she can use her clout and her name to sort of help people who are like less fortunate right now. I mean, she's obviously not in England, so wherever I think she's setting up camp in LA. Is that correct? Like the last I read? Yeah. She's left Canada. Then help like the city of LA or the greater vicinity of Southern California or whatever, because they're certainly hurting too, as opposed to promoting herself.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. And I think, part of being a good publicist for yourself and for other clients is just having that intuitive knowledge about what do people really want from you. And I think, you know, people right now, as you mentioned before about your restaurants providing recipes for people,
Right.
at home recipes, you know, things that really are of service. Like we, for our show, want to provide the best and the brightest who are advising people on what they can do to help their lives at this time, because there's a lot of confusion out there and panic, as you mentioned. And one of the things you talk about is kind of using your soft skills properly. What are soft skills exactly?
Basically anything that you have in your war chest of credibility that's not a trade skill, if you will. So like a good example might be if you are really hands-on and, you know, an artist and you're a painter, or you're a carpenter, or you create beautiful objects and things like that. That's more of a hard skill as opposed to a soft skill that might be communication, using empathy, listening skills are considered soft skills. Obviously, you know, just communicating in this capacity on virtual platforms is considered a soft skill. So anything that you can do to help your audience grow and flourish, and offer something that's within your area of expertise. Like if you're a doctor, and you might say be a spine surgeon, and because you're considered elective, you're shut down right now, you know, you might offer, if you suffer from back pain, organic ways to combat back pain. Then you might do a blog, or you might do a vlog, like a video blog, which is really, you know, interactive and engaging and things like that, whether it be on YouTube or just, you know, utilizing Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever vehicle you have the most followers and engagement in, to offer that insight. Then I would say I'd advise against you know, going off brand. And maybe, well, you want to be authentic, and people like to see, you know, your human side, and maybe like interacting with your kids if you have them, or your partner, or whatever it may be. Not necessarily going on camera and offering a tutorial on how to hit the best hoop in basketball. Yeah. Is that if you're not exactly like trained in that area, that would be something I would say probably isn't appropriate, because you want to be offering content at the end of the day that piggybacks back to your company or your business or your practice or whatever it is that you're doing. So just staying in your lane.
Does this raise brand awareness? Does this raise brand awareness that ultimately leads to dollars? How does that work in terms of?
It does. So like, you know, if you are, you know, are seen as a thought leader, whether you're being featured on, you know, ABC7 or Inside Edition or, you know, YouTube, you're still a thought leader, you know? So at the end of the day, if someone's in need of, I don't know, sticking with your area of expertise, Dr. Robbie, you know, therapist, you're offering insight, lots of insight, really valuable insight about how to cope with this COVID-19 era that we're all in, and all of the mental challenges that go along with it. You know, you may not necessarily be in need of a therapist today, but when you are, you're going to know your name. You're going to remember what you said. You're going to come off very engaging and very endearing and warm. And that's something that I work with my clients on achieving too, because, you know, the camera, radio, even certain quotes can water down your personality quite a bit, and also paint a picture of making you a little colder than you may really be in reality. So you want to always come off warm and fuzzy. You don't want to be someone
that's
that
such a great point. I think that's such a great point. I know we have a little bit of that delay going on because we're using the internet, but you know, to be energetic, because you're right that when you are talking to camera, whether it's for YouTube or Instagram, it can come off a little flat unless you raise your energy level. You have to be excited about what you're talking about. And I'm very fortunate that I love everything psychological. So I get really excited about conveying that message. You talk about staying relevant to your audience. Does that mean being in sync with your brand and what your mission is?
And relevant in the sense that you're still out there. So if you are a business that's idle, or maybe you're, you know, not necessarily out and about like you used to be because of networking, depending on what your business model is or what your area of expertise is, just staying afloat, quote unquote, not going dark. You know, like we often think of shows that are on hiatus, or whether they be entertainment shows or shows like, you know, Dr. Oz, they take a hiatus usually, and they call it going dark. You never want to go dark, especially if you're someone that's already been in the news and has a brand already well established in the media, to all of a sudden sort of like take a step back, but because maybe you feel like it's callous to offer beauty tips when people are dying, which obviously at the end of the day people are, and we really want to be sensitive to that, but not, thank God, not everybody is. And there's still a lot of people who are still trying to like look for things that they can do to make their lives more comfortable or better. So my salons, for instance, I work with a very, very established, two actually, but the one I'm going to mention is in New York City, Julian Farrell. You know, we've been doing some things about how to trim your own bangs if you have bangs, and thankfully I don't, because otherwise they eat down to my nose or it's like an inch long, you know, things like that, without destroying what they've created in their own, like, you know, they're artists in their own right. Or if you have blonde hair that has a bottle to achieve it. Like I have highlights, and as you can see, my roots are now coming in, and you know, right, things like they're awesome. Thank God that ombre is still on trend, right, Dr. Rob? Because you know, I'll be rocking that ombre. But you know, they're talking about things to do at home without like necessarily coloring your own hair, because that could really create a disaster, a recipe.
So really thinking about the service, like come from a place of giving that's in sync with your platform. Because obviously I am not going to, for example, give cooking advice. That would be disingenuous, and it wouldn't be very good. It wouldn't advance my career, and that's not what people want to hear.
You might get sued because someone could end up in the hospital. Someone poisoning. I'm just kidding.
Dangerous.
Damn, you know. I'm not a cook either. What can you say?
So the fourth recommendation you have is work on back burner projects.
Mm-hmm. So this is a really, really good time to put forth like some projects that you were planning to do, the part of your branding. So whether you wanted to create a blog, or maybe you have a blog and you haven't really had time to tackle that blog, this is a really good time to carve out time, you know, once a week or twice a week or whatever your schedule allows, depending on how busy you are with the day-to-day stuff you have going on, to cultivate that, you know, start it back up and get it geared up to go. If you wanted to start a podcast, this is a really good time. Lots of people have tons of time on their hands, or they're home. And like even me, like doing, to my dismay, the laundry, I like will pop in my, you know, earbuds, and I'm like, listen, it makes the time go faster. Or when I'm cleaning my house, or any of the many things that I don't like to do when life is in full swing. You know, people are looking for entertainment. They're looking for like a distraction, things to kind of.
What do you think the best way is? Because there's a lot of noise out there. So it's like there are a lot of people just putting content out there, and it doesn't really, it's not necessarily engaging, or it just feels like there's so much out there. What do you think helps somebody to stand out above and beyond the rest of the noise?
Well, if you're going to create, let's stick with a podcast, right? Because there's a lot of different, like, I guess, examples of what noise could be, the blog and the vlog and all those things. So whether it be that or a podcast or whatever you're looking to do, or maybe all of the above, stay in your lane. So if you are, you know, a doctor and your area of expertise is elective surgery in the aesthetic medicine space, I don't necessarily recommend you go ahead and do a blog about wellness eating, because you think that that's probably the best way that you're going to be able to grow and people are going to gravitate to that right now. I stay in your lane about things you can do organically and things at home, perhaps right now, because obviously you're not going to a plastic surgeon's office with things that you can do to kind of keep the clock back in an organic way, that you're not obviously going to be injecting your face with Botox, but maybe there's different creams or DIY procedures, or, you know, masks that you can create that you might include ingredients that an average person may not realize is beneficial because you have that background in aesthetic medicine. But also like be in tune with what your competition is doing. So you don't want to duplicate what's already out there. You don't want to reinvent the wheel by like creating this whole new thing, but you need to be somewhat different. But really offer good content is like the most important thing, and stay in, I can't say this enough, I keep saying it, but to stay in your lane. If you're not a therapist, don't offer therapy. Yeah, be true to who you are. I wrote a self-help book. Am I a therapist? Absolutely not. And I never, ever, ever would ever want to claim that I am. I speak to actionable tips about things that you can do to keep your mindset healthy just because they're things that I do, right? But so that's my lane, but I'm doing it as this is Mindie and this is how I stay upbeat, not as this is what you should do because I believe in this and I think that, I'm not saying it necessarily is going to work for everyone. All I say is it works for me. But at the end of the day, my lane is truly PR, marketing, and like on-air performance, in the news capacity. So that's really my MO, and I kind of stick in that space, because if you start to like hinder and go out of the lines a little bit, that's where that noise and all of that static gets created. And then you're really not offering anything to people other than just like, a talking head kind of situation. And that's not.
So you talk about, as your fifth recommendation, focus on online services. So what's an example of online services that people can promote?
Anything that you can do. Like for me, I've started this before all of this erupted with the coronavirus and the stay-at-home movement and all of that. Not movement, but we have to, right? I started creating like the movement. I started creating an online workshop that offers actionable tips of how to like manage and maneuver the media, and it's geared towards solopreneurs and startups and basically people who want PR, want to do it well, but don't necessarily have the budget for it. And also for cities like that are smaller in other parts of our country that don't necessarily need PR because their marketplaces are really small, like Market 101, in the Midwest or wherever, that kind of city, or like North Dakota, they don't necessarily need to have a PR person because the likelihood is pretty high they're going to call their station and they're going to be able to talk to the reporter right on the phone, like on the first try. Whereas that is not the case when you live in New York or Philly or Chicago or any of those types of cities. You almost sort of need to have a publicist to get in those types of outlets. But to that, I'm kind of taking that up a notch right now because this is the time. People are home. They're looking for any kind of like, anything online that they can participate in to kind of enlighten themselves and to grow intellectually or whatever it may be. So if you are in a service business, this is a really good time to put an online course together or to offer like consultations, even if it's a complimentary consultation, just to sort of get yourself out there and kind of make connections with new people and new prospects that could lead to clients later on down the line when things resolve itself. If you are a brick and mortar, then that's obviously engaging more in online sales, whether it be Instagram or really more Instagram probably.
And that's something you talk about in terms of build up your social media. So again, they're connected in many ways, that when you're offering an online course and social media, very often people do that through their Instagram, through their Twitter, through their LinkedIn. And I think it's really important for people to know out there that even though it seems like the world has stopped, sometimes that's the best time to make a name for yourself. That's sometimes when people really shine and come up with new ideas and become thought leaders, because they're just thinking creatively, and that every time is a time for possibilities to put yourself out there in an important way. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that it's like sink or swim, right? And
Yeah.
if you're going to be, successful, whether it be in this uncertain times or when things resolve itself, you're always going to face challenges. So, if you're going to sit and quiet and like basically just let life happen, then you're not going to excel. This is the time to stand out and, stand out in a way that, again, going back to the first like rule of thumb, is to offer content that's serving your audience.
Yeah.
In a good way, offering them relevant information that they can apply to what their day looks like now, and not 5 weeks from now or whenever,
Yeah.
things happen later, but things that they can apply immediately, because everyone's like, they're in panic mode. I mean, I don't know why. I never really was. I just figured, so you're going to figure a way around it. I guess because my whole life, for me personally, I've always felt like things are just sort of like the guiding light, like the soap opera. So I'm like used to having like lots of thrown at me at the same time, but like you need to continue on your path. And if you're shut down, you need to find other ways to stay relevant in the media or with your audience. Keep your name out there.
I would also say this is a great time to find established online places like Thrive or Medium, where maybe you can offer to write an article that's on an established platform. And I also think it's all about the relationship too that you develop with your audience, that you have to be somebody who's trustworthy and somebody who really can provide help, which is what you talk about, look for ways to help. If you are offering really valuable information, whether if you're a cook and you're offering how to bake cookies with your kids who are home, or you're a hairdresser and offering how to maintain your looks while you can't go to the hair salon, or a therapist offering tips, or a publicist offering tips, people feel connected to you. And I think that connection leads to more publicity. But you can tell me what you think.
I agree fully. I definitely agree with that mindset for sure. And I think when life resolves itself, people are going to remember you if you offered a helping hand with no strings attached, right?
Yeah.
And when and if you don't offer a favor because you want something in return, you do it because you're a good person and you want to do the right thing. But I'm a believer, and I know you are too, Dr. Robi, in karma. So you do the right thing enough times, like it's going to come back to you in some shape or form. So I've done a lot of, consultations, and I'm still busy, thankfully, knock wood, but I do have lesser clients on my list right now because of the inevitable situation that their businesses are closed. So in my, not like some downtime that I might have otherwise, I've been offering some consults and, advisement and stuff like that. And I'm happy to do it. Like, hey, if I have to get on a call with you, I'm gonna, and you don't have to hire me like ever, but if you want to one day, that's awesome, and that's truly like the way everybody should be thinking right now, just like helping each other, making connections. And even if the person you're helping may not ever use your services and hire you and exchange money for your help, maybe they're going to offer you to somebody else that will, you know what I'm saying?
That's such a great
really all about that. Yeah.
Where can people find you in case they want to get your advice or find out what you're working on?
Sure. Thank you. So my website for my PR firm is MB, as in Mindie Barnett, and, which is spelled out, associatespr.com. So I'll repeat that one more time, MB and associatespr.com. And then I also do a bunch of speaking and things like that. And for my book, Intermission, that website is just my name. It's Mindie, MINDIE, Barnett.com.
Terrific. So we will have a link so everybody can find you and look for all of the exciting projects that you're working on. And we'll also have the tips that you provided everyone about how to be their own best publicist during this time so that they can keep their business dreams alive. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. It was nice to see you in sort of the flesh.
I know, in a Zoom kind of way. Until next week, thanks for joining us.